Okay, I guess I'll say the first few words between Reverend Al and I. It's probably not enough time for us to even say hello, but we're going to give it a shot. As most of you know, I'm one of the attorneys in this case. We have a great team of attorneys and investigators, and all of us come to the same conclusion. We've all been involved in the practice of law for a long time, me about 25 years. I was a prosecutor, a defense lawyer. I've never, ever seen a case that's come close to this when it comes to causing perversion of justice in so many different ways. It's rotten to the core of this case. You have a bad arrest with a corrupt police officer whose corrupt ways, his perjurious ways, were kept from Meek Mill and his defense lawyers for a decade. That was just uncovered in the last few weeks. A cop who lied about the circumstance of the arrest, who beat Meek unconscious as he was rear handcuffed, who pulled one of his braids out of his hair. A guy who's done this systematically, and the district attorney, the former district attorney who knew this, hid his name from the defense. That district attorney now is in federal prison. But Meek Mill, in the meantime, sits in an 8 by 9 foot cell eating food that's not edible for dogs, has missed Thanksgiving with his family, Christmas with his family, and has been sent to jail for not committing another crime after being on probation for 10 years, a level of probation that none of us would be able to withstand. You have a case that's not just about corrupt cops, though, and corruption to the core. You have a case with a judge that has displayed serious, serious issues, both of professional abilities, of ethical abilities, both regarding Meek and outside conduct, where she abuses her title and her position of power. There's been a lot of facts that have been put out there. This is not the forum for that because there's three of us who have to say a little bit of something, and we have a lot of very distinguished speakers here. First of all, I'm honored to be here at this great university in this great city, a city that's fundamental to the independence and the Bill of Rights and the sort of the importance of what this country is all about. And that's why it's such a juxtaposition to be here talking about a justice system that's broken. And that's what tonight's about. It's about reform and about a system that really has to take a deeper look, not just at Meek's case, but at the hundreds of thousands of other young, voiceless individuals who are sitting in prison for technical violations. I'm going to throw a few stats at you that are going to blow your mind in a second. But let me just remind you that Meek Mill was sentenced to 2 to 4 years in jail for a non-criminal offense by a judge who took the recommendation of the district attorney, who said he shouldn't go to jail at all, who took the recommendation of the probation officer, who said that Meek Mill has been a model probationer and said he shouldn't go to jail at all because these were technical violations. She excoriated both of them on the record, said they didn't know what they were talking about, and gave him 2 to 4 years because of her personal issues with him. Again, people were appalled. The district attorney's office, obviously, who normally opposes defense requests, were very upset by this, but that's the status. We have filed every conceivable motion, and don't forget, Meek has spent his entire adult life on probation. 10 years on probation, where he couldn't even go see his mother when she had surgery. He couldn't see his child at certain times unless he got permission. That's not what probation is supposed to be about. Probation is about rehabilitation. This case has been a perversion since day one. We have a situation where Meek is in there and he knows he's going to bring about change, and he knows that he's in there for a reason, okay? Because this case is bigger than Meek Mill, and Meek knows that. He's sort of just the platform that's going to open the doors and shed some light onto the perversion and the system that needs fixing. And it's not just for Meek, it's for all African Americans and all people who are being abused by a system that's run amok. The statistics I was going to tell you is that 1/3, listen to this, 1/3 of Pennsylvania's 50,000 state prisoners are people just like Meek across the entire state who've been put in jail for technical violations of probation, 1/3. In 2014, out of 5,000 probationers in Philadelphia, 3,000 were sent back to jail. 3,000 out of 5,000 were sent back to jail, not for criminal offenses, but for technical violations. That is not how the system is supposed to work. We're not even equipped for that. It's not fair to the courts, not fair to the individuals, their families. Probation is supposed to help rehabilitate and bring you back into society. If you make a mistake, you have to accept responsibility for that mistake. It doesn't mean put you in jail, throw away the key, you don't even have a chance to get bail. And that's what happens here. And this system needs fixing. The current DA, the new DA, DA Krasner, he ran a platform in his election campaign to try and fix this. And to understand, when he was a private attorney, he went against a lot of these corrupt officers who were in that list of 29 that the Philadelphia Inquirer published. He went against a lot of them to sort of bring out the fact that there is serious violations and perversions of the law. So right now we're doing everything we can for Meek in the sense that we filed every conceivable motion from bail motions. And by the way, at the very least, I don't think anyone with a brain could say, okay, we now have a situation where the sentence was completely unfair and against any sense of justice. You have a situation where now, after 10 years, the only officer who testified against Meek Mill at his trial turns out to be a corrupt, lying, brutalizing cop. And that was hid from Meek Mill and his defense team. And so now that that information's out, and they have to do their investigation to see how they're going to handle this, which is fine, take your time. But do not keep him in jail while everyone's trying to figure out what to do here. At the very least, give him bail. And that's what we're asking for. You know, there really is, there's something that, and I want to really get to Reverend Al Sharpton and Kathy, Meek's mom, but there is just something here that you have to understand. We have a team of lawyers and investigators who have taken this very personally. This has stopped being a client and a job for all of us. You know, we have local counsel, Brian McMonigal, who's one of Philly's best lawyers. He's in this giving his all. Jordan Sieve, you know, my brother, who we work on many cases with together. I mean, we have a team of investigators, and you know, Rock Nation's team, their whole weight is behind this because they care. Luke Brendel Kim, our investigator, Earl Ward, Andy Selly, Jonathan Abadi. I mean, lawyers and people who care, because we all went to law school for a reason. At least we all started out that way. And the reason wasn't to make a lot of money or do that. It was to make change and to do justice. And when you have a chance to fix something that's so perversely broken, you take that and you embrace it. And that's what this team is doing. So this is a very personal thing for all of us. I mean, the judge threatens to sue me every day. I'm waiting. I'm right here, by the way, Judge Brinkley. If you want to come and bring your papers, if you want to come and bring your papers, and you have your lawyer running around the newspapers threatening to sue me, the criminal defense lawyer that you hired, by the way, very telling for a judge that was under FBI investigation. But if you want to come bring your papers, Judge Brinkley, I'm right here. I'm in your state. So serve me. I'd love to take your deposition. But I will not be intimidated by some overbearing, threatening judge. I will not be intimidated by corrupt cops. Our team will not be intimidated. And we will make sure this perversion of justice is overturned. Meek will come home. Meek will come home, and the system will be better for it, because it's not just going to affect Meek, it's going to affect all the John Smiths and the Robert Williams and all the nameless people out there that don't have voices and don't have the ability to convene a rally with distinguished people like this. So good things are happening, and good things are coming. I want to introduce one of really people I look up to most in our society, Reverend Al Sharpton, and Reverend Al and I have not always been on the same side of the fence. I watched a tape of us 13 years ago. I was representing a police officer and he wasn't. And we had a debate on MSNBC, and he was not very nice to me. We have now become good friends, and I respect him as much as I respect anyone, because to me, Martin Luther King was the reason I went to law school. I watched everything I could of Martin Luther King, and to me, Reverend Sharpton is a direct descendant of Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King said something to me that I take with me every day when I go to practice law, which is, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. That's what we have here. At this point, my hot air is out, so I'm going to turn this over to Reverend Al Sharpton because I think he's the reason why a lot of you are here.
Thank you. A few months ago when Joe called me, Joe Tacopina, and told me about the details on this case, he said to me that it would be good if National Action Network got involved because one of the things that he had not seen is some of the national civil rights groups get involved. And I talked to some of the staff at NAN and gave them the details of what Joe had given us, because that's what we deal with, is civil rights. And I called Joe back and I said that we want to get involved, and I want to get involved because it's a shame that national civil rights groups are not supporting those young students in Philly standing up for Meek Mill. Because let's be honest about it. The reason why a lot of people won't is because we are talking about not only a system that is racist, we're talking about some blacks in the system that have a class problem. And if we don't stand up to this bias we have one to another, as well as what they do with race, then we will never be able to break this cycle that's a threat to all of us. So I told Joe, I said, first of all, we're going to be involved, and second of all, we've got to deal with the issue of Meek that is broader than just Meek, all of those that are incarcerated on these technicalities. One of the things that we dealt with when President Obama was in, and he started commuting a lot of these sentences that make no sense. If you are a mobster in Philly, you all get a good lawyer and you go home. If you violate parole, you do 2 to 4. We got to deal with this across the board. So Joe said, I just want you to know, Reverend Al, that before your group gets involved, that the judge is a black woman. I said, okay. And he told me the story about the interaction. I told him I'll call you later. I do a radio show every day. I got back to National Action Network. I said, I tell you what, can Meek get visitors if we got some people to come down? And he said, I think I can arrange that. I said, well, arrange a visit. We set a date. He said, all right, I'm going to need a name of who's coming. I said, tell him Al Sharpton, because I want that black woman judge to know somebody that has been fighting for people like her all of her life to be able to sit on that bench is saying that what she's done is a disgrace to all of us that ever stood up in the first place. We did not march and go to jail and suffer for our people to get on the bench and look down their nose and forget how they got there in the first place. Let's be real clear. I went to the jail, I spent an hour and change with Joe and Meek Mill. And Meek kept saying to me, he said, Reverend, he said, when I was a kid, I did wrong. He said, I'm not making no lies to you. He said, when I was a kid, I did wrong, I broke the law. I said, well, when I was a kid, I was a preacher, but I did wrong too, but we ain't got to talk about that. He said, but I tried to do what is right. I took my musical talent, I built a business, I hire people, and they're going to give me 2 to 4 years for a dirt bike because I wouldn't put the judge in a video because she couldn't tell me who the manager is. He said, but not only me, I talked to everybody in this jail, and half of them are here for the same reason. And we cannot allow this to go unchallenged. When I look at his mother, I think of my mother who had to scrub floors to raise me. And some of us that get out and get up forget we get Negro amnesia and act like people didn't pave the way for us. And that's why when I heard about what reform was doing, I said, I'll come again, not send no representatives. I want this black judge, this black woman to know every time she looks around that people that she may think respects her is totally ashamed and embarrassed by what she's done to Meek Mill. Meek is a symbol. When I was growing up, my father left when I was 9. The only symbols we had was those that we could look up to. I looked up to ministers. I'd become a minister. I joined civil rights, became youth director in New York at Dr. King's organization the year he was killed when I was 13, and been involved ever since. We looked up to entertainers. Guy that joined my young civil rights group named Teddy Brown joined. I didn't know who he was, just another young guy coming to the rallies. He was 17, I was 17. He got killed, and his father came to New York to do a concert to memorialize him. His father was James Brown, the Godfather of Soul. I did not know it till Teddy was dead. So James Brown kind of adopted me, Miss Williams, to replace his son. We were the same age. And I looked up to James Brown's soul. He got me to do my hair like him. That's where my hairstyle comes from. A lot of y'all thought I was some quartet singer. I did that for James because I never had a man ask me to be like them. I didn't have a father to emulate. And I was honored that this man thought enough of me to say, I want you to wear your hair like me, because it gave me a sense of value. Our young brothers out the hood need to know that we will stand up and fight for them, because they're worth being fought for like anybody else in the United States. And if we stay on this and walk Meek Mill out of there, it will send a message to them all over this nation that people will stand up for you. Yeah, Porter asked me when I went to the jail with Joe, well, Meek is roughneck, and Meek used lyrics you don't like. So what? We ain't taking etiquette class, we talking about justice. I'm sure I say things he don't agree with. We can debate on the outside, but you got too many of us on the inside. We don't have to even like each other, but we all each other has, and if we don't drop all of our differences and fight to preserve us, they will pick us off one by one. This man that's sitting in the White House now stopped all commutations of offenders, has said a thing where he's telling police, don't even be nice putting them in jail. That we understand. That we're going to deal with an election. But what I don't understand is a black woman judge that went to a historic black college that's aiding and abetting Donald Trump in a prison industrial complex in this country. I don't understand that. I don't understand how a DA cannot object to Meek Mill going home. How even those in charge of the parole system don't object. But she finds some pride in locking him up, making an example of him. That is what has happened to us ever since we were brought to these shores. So we need to make an example in Philly that this classism and racism, we need to make an example by walking Meek out of there so all of the Meek Mills will know that we're not going to tolerate this.
Okay. You're good. This is it, huh?
The case of Meek, the attorney is giving you case in point. And even though we have fought on some cases, like he said in the past, we're locked at the hip in this. Even though you was wrong about that cop joke. But
he was acquitted, not guilty, but all right.
doesn't mean he wasn't.
Oh, here we go.
We have got to really hang in there. Those young people that march for Meek, that continue to march, but even more important, people like those in reform that are fighting for people that are not known, that are not celebrities, people that are there that nobody cares about. These are the people that change this society for the best. They'll be there when there is nobody there with names. And that's what movements are about. And that's what we've got to build and support. So I'm not only here to support Meek, I'm here to support reform. I'm here to support students that are risking their time and whatever stature on campus and whatever they're doing in life, because they are paying the price that changes this country to where it is and where it needs to be. Mass incarceration is one of the critical issues in this country. We don't want to talk about it because we act as though those that are incarcerated are automatically guilty when they may not be guilty of anything but being poor, of having improper legal representation, or having judges like this judge that thinks that they can be just thrown away and nobody will care. We've got to show we care, because any one of us could be them. And every one of us needs to make a difference. Every morning we get up, we should have that determination that that part of our lives we're committed to. So I'm here for that. I'm going to keep coming. I'm going to do whatever we can for these grassroots and student activists to keep this issue going until we turn the whole system around. But Meek Mill is an important symbol of that system. And one thing, I've been able to achieve some things I wanted in life. I have one goal I tell Joe all the time now, and my goal is that every morning I get up and put my 2 feet on the floor, that every bigot, every racist, and every classist say, damn, he's up again.
Best, you're the best. Okay. I could listen to him speak all day. I love him. We have Kathy here, Meek's mom. And by the way, I'm just looking at someone else in the audience actually who has been, you know, if I ever had a best friend and you could pick your best friend in life, I would pick Mike Rubin, because I just saw Mike, I just looked over and I saw Mike now, and I didn't mention him before because I was talking about the legal team, but Mike, as some of you know, owns some little basketball team here. They're not as good as the Brooklyn Nets, but they have the process. They have the process, so, yeah. All right, easy. But no, I want to thank Mike because I got to tell you, the things that man has done, the time he's given, and everything else he's done is inspirational. So if you ever need a good best friend, try and get Mike. When you need him, that's when a good friend is there. So Mike, thank you. Kathy is here, and I think you wanted to say a few words, Kathy. And I told Kathy this. Kathy's not, she's a little shy. Like the Reverend Al and I, we're just a little shy. But I said to her, I said, your mere presence here is enough because all these people understand you're Meek's face right now. And I said, your mere presence is enough. So I think Kathy deserves a little acknowledgement from all of you, okay? It's for you, huh? You want to say a few words, Kathy?
I don't know what to say.
All you say is thank you. You don't say the word. It's okay.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming out today, supporting my family, my son, and other people's family. It's not just about him, it's about everyone that's been treated unfairly, injustice. And I wish that Krasner would get on the move of looking into all what's going on that's happening in Pennsylvania. It's all corrupt. Like I said, I feel like I was a criminal of them doing this to my son for 11, 12 years. Who does that to a child? Do this lady have a heart? He has a son to take care of. He has his grandmother that's sitting there. He has a sister, niece, and nephews, and them sitting back there. And I'm his mother. I have to look, when she sent him to jail for 2 to 4 years, who was going to pay my bills? That was my support, which my daughter gives me support too. But he pays everything. I like to thank whoever's paying my bills. I just like to say thank you to everyone that came out here. There's nothing like that.
Guys, hold on 1 second. Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, who this?
It's Joe.
Thank you.
Hey, Meek, how you doing, buddy? Guess what? We're not having a private conversation right now. You're on speaker. So there's a lot of people here who want to just hear your voice. So go ahead. Give them a shout out. Guys, let's Meek say a few words here too. I'm here with your mom.
I wanted to say I appreciate all the love and all the support from the people from Philadelphia, all over the world, the people that have been showing support. And I think it's about time Pennsylvania had some type of light shined on the system, because I'm actually caught up in the system, not just me, myself, me and a bunch of other young men and older men. And it's kind of hard to get out of it. I've been on probation since I was 18 years old. Ain't committed crime since I was 18 years old, and I'm back in a state prison due to a few small minor mistakes. And I'm just appreciative of all the support everybody that's been bringing to the table. Rock Nation, Mike, lawyers, Philadelphia, my supporters, everybody, man. I'm just supportive, thankful.
Okay, Meek. Well, I'm here with the Reverend Al and your mom on stage, and we all give you a big hug. Okay. No, Phil's not here. Meek, there's a lot of people hanging out right now listening to us, so we'll talk to Phil later. Hold on, I'm going to give you...
let's talk. I'm on live. You ain't tell me I was about to talk. I got a lot of...
Oh, sorry, yeah. You just spoke to about 2,000 people plus about 40 million listening live on Facebook, so thank God you didn't say anything bad.
Really I wanted to share my piece about if they doing things like this. Like, I made it from... the bottom of Philadelphia, raised in a single-parent home with me and my mother. My mother had to work all the time, so unfortunately it was just me and my sister in the street, because my mom was pulling 8-hour shifts to keep the lights on. And I made it from that point all the way up to stardom and doing well with a rap career. And when I was 18, I was caught up in the system, and I got out of that situation, and I was sentenced to a long tail of probation. And I ended up being signed to a record label and started doing good with myself. And, a few mistakes put me below zero, put me below where I was before I even started. So it's like, if they taking me from so high and bringing me back down and putting me in a state penitentiary, they doing the average black male or Hispanic male in the neighborhood 10 times worse. And, I'm just happy to be able to shed light on the situation that we've been going through for years, and I've been seeing my family members and friends go through for years. So, God picked me to be the one to bring the light to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to the world. I accepted it, and, I'm going to stand up to it.
Okay, Meek, I'm going to take you off speaker now because this is an awkward conversation. Here's the Reverend, by the way.
Meek, I was telling them when I visited you in jail how you were saying that it was important. You said, Reverend Al, no matter what, don't let them not understand. This is not just about me. I want to come out and fight for everybody. What they're doing to me is symbolic of everybody. And that, more than anything, is what made me determined to keep coming back, stand here with your mom, because you're about everybody. And I don't think the people understand in the media that you're not talking about just free and Meek. You're talking about changing the whole system.
Yeah, I'm the platform. I'm just an example. I feel like I feel like I'm the example that shined the light, you know what I'm saying? We from Philly, it's been dark out here when it comes to the criminal justice center on this side, and, you know, I'm just the example shining the light, and of course I want my freedom back too, but, you know, I'm the platform for other people to fight for their freedom in the light without being in the dark and being railroaded like we always been for a long amount of time.
All right.
Okay, brother, we're gonna let you go. I'm gonna take you off speaker and.
I appreciate it.
Okay, man.
Tell everybody I said thank you too.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank everybody.